welcome one and all to this week's episode of The Síle Show. Wellbeing, guys. What does that mean to you? Well, it has never been more visible than it is today. From mindfulness to manifestation, from yoga and Pilates to ice baths and breath work, from nervous system regulation to CrossFit and all its first cousins, from couch to 5K programs and wearable health technology, there seems to be a wellbeing practice, modality or philosophy for almost every aspect of modern life. And as this landscape of wellbeing is constantly evolving, new approaches, of course, constantly emerging. New language is entering the conversation. New promises are being made about how we might live more fully, feel more grounded and function more effectively. Yet, beneath the ever-changing well-being practices du jour lies a more enduring question, for sure. How do we actually sustain ourselves when the stuff of life tumbles us, knocks us out of kilter, and makes a distant memory of our previously best-laid plans? Because bodies change, responsibilities change, circumstances change, and what supports us in one chapter of life may not support us in the next. Well, my guest today, as I'm sure you're already after working out, is working herself in fitness and wellbeing coaching. She's the creator of MyFuel, a framework centred on consistency, habit building and sustainable change management that purports to stand the test of time by flexing with time itself. From matrescence to maternity, from loss and grief to health challenges, from early menopause and the hormonal upheavals that can come with that, Aoife Bradley's own understanding of well-being has been shaped first and foremost by the realities of navigating change in her own life and more laterally by the insights that emerged from within her business as she continues to support her clients in a very bespoke and individualised way, not as an ideal, but as an ongoing practice of adaptation, resilience and return when life refuses to follow the plan. So, without further ado, Aoife Bradley, the heartiest of Síle Show welcomes to lovely you.
Thank you so much, Síle, for having me.
Oh, it's great to finally meet you. Aoife, can we go right back to the beginning of this lovely new chapter that you've been in for about 13 years at this stage, is it? Yeah. You experienced a lot of trauma when your little baby wasn't for this world. She chose you as the vessel, yeah, and she was to bud on earth and grow in heaven.
Yeah. We got married in 2012, myself and my husband, Alan. And then we discovered we were pregnant and we were delighted, like any, newly married couple. And we went for our 12-week scan and everything was brilliant. And so we were so happy. I was still working away. I had a gym at the time and all was good. And I remember one day then I was with a client and I just felt something wasn't right. So I went into the bathroom and then I knew I needed to go home. So we drove up to the rotunda and you hear so many people saying you walk in the same door that, people leave with babies and you see balloons and everything. And so we went into the rotunda and we went, first of all, we were in the downstairs in the emergency area and then they brought us upstairs and I was lying up on the bed and at this stage now we were 20 weeks and the midwife came in and she was doing the ultrasound and you just know by their face and you're just staring at them and you're like, is everything okay? And she said, I just need to get a doctor. So I looked at my husband and he knew too. And I just knew then. So the doctor came in and just confirmed that there was no heartbeat. So because I was so far in my pregnancy, I then had to stay there and give birth to her, which was so challenging in itself, because I'd never obviously experienced anything like this. we were at an age within my girlfriends that, you know, 2 of my friends had kids, you know, but nobody had, you know, this kind of a miscarriage, or it just wasn't in a discussion. So we just didn't know what way it was going to be. And yeah, so it was a little baby girl. And then we discovered that she would have had a heart defect. So I do believe that God just worked in his, you know, own way, that she, as you said, she just wasn't meant to be on earth, but she is 100% one of my guardian angels. Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah.
I know that for sure. I know it from my own experience, as well as feeling you, having the pleasure and the honour of sitting with you here, chatting about your lovely little girl. I can feel the lovely energy.
Yeah.
And everything is energy in life, Aoife.
Yeah.
And having chatted with you just a little bit before we went on air, I know that you're an energy being yourself. And I know that I'm speaking to somebody who has bandwidth for that type of overview. Everything is energy. So your little girl crossed the placenta. She came into your lives. She will have changed the DNA of you.
Yeah.
She'll have changed the DNA of your marriage.
Yeah.
Probably your wider family relations, maybe even your friendships, etc. And then certainly prepared you over a period of time for your next pregnancy, which in its own right was very challenging as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Not too long afterwards, so that was September, we lost our little girl. And then it was New Year's Day, so January 1st the next year, we did a pregnancy test and discovered we were pregnant again. And so because we had the miscarriage, then they said, look, if you become pregnant again, you need to go through the early pregnancy clinic. So I remember ringing them maybe 2 days later, and they gave us an appointment and we went up. And again, I think, Síle, that was the start of, you know, losing the baby, where I became a very, you know, barriers came up with, you know, I wasn't going to believe that this pregnancy was going to be real until I was holding the baby, you know. And so we went up, and I remember thinking, got like a bit of a bump here, you know, and maybe it was from the previous pregnancy, you know, I was like, this is very big already. And I said jokingly, oh, imagine if it was twins. And so my husband, we laughed. And so we went into the early pregnancy, into our consultant, and she got me up onto the bed again, and you're back in that moment again, and all you want to hear is a heartbeat. And we did hear a heartbeat. And then she's like, oh, there's another heartbeat. And here's me again. I went, oh my God, our baby has 2 hearts.
Oh, Aoife.
And I was like, has our baby got 2 hearts? And she's like, no. This is a twin pregnancy. And I remember looking at my husband, and he was looking at me, and we were like, oh my goodness. But I knew, looking at her face, that something just wasn't right. And again, I'm asking the question, is everything okay? And she's like, I just need to examine a little bit here now. And so we discovered that she was giving us 2 options here. One was that our pregnancy was what was called a monoamniotic. So that means that there's no divide. Okay, so when you have a twin pregnancy, the baby has their own sac, there's a divide, and the other twin has their sac. Okay, this divide, this membrane wasn't there. So at this point, because it was such an early pregnancy, the embryos were lying on top of each other. So she was getting me to bounce up and down. I remember she got a cold, something really cold, to see if they'd separate. Yeah. And then the second thing she said to us, look, this could be a conjoined. And I remember automatically just did a flashback to watching the Late Late Show. Do you remember that episode?
Indeed. I do.
Where those twin girls were going for surgery. And I thought, oh my goodness. And for the monoamniotic pregnancy, at that time, the survival rate was like 35%. So we drove home that day with so many different mixed emotions. We were delighted we were pregnant. We were delighted we'd heartbeats. But again, that that 3-letter word was just instilled in my head. So, she said, you're going to have to come back in 2 weeks. So at this stage, Síle, we were probably only like 6 weeks pregnant, you know, and so we had to go back up at 8 weeks. And for those 2 weeks, we didn't tell many people. We obviously told our parents, Alan's sisters and brother, but didn't tell, you know, and came back 2 weeks later and they had separated. So we knew then we were dealing with monoamniotic. So of course, I went into Google Overdrive and, you know, it was how as the babies get older, they obviously get bigger. So their umbilical cords get entwined and tangled. So what can happen is then that one baby mightn't grow equal ratio to the other baby, and so on and so forth. So then one baby mightn't survive within the womb, and so all of this. So when we were leaving, she said, now, you know, you need to take this as a normal pregnancy in your mind, because she knew of our previous history. And she said, go on about your day as normal. We will see you more regularly. So we'll have you up probably every 3 weeks for an ultrasound and to monitor you. Mm-hmm. So that was fine. I went back to work and, you know, and then literally, I'd say another fortnight later, same situation. I was at work and I got a bleed again. And I thought, no, this can't be happening. And I remember I came home and I started to get really bad abdominal pain. Myself and my husband back in the car again, driving up to the rotunda. And you just think, worst case, this, you know, I'm not going to carry a baby out of here, you know, through the emergency again, and then back up to the first level. And when we went up to the first level, the minute they put the ultrasound on me, we could hear heartbeats. So I thought, okay, no, they're still here. They're still here. The consultant we had at the time was Prof Malone, my, you know, absolute hero to this day. And he came into us and on the ultrasound, when they did the ultrasound, they could see that I had a fibroid. So he just said, look, Aoife, that's what's actually causing the bleed. So we need to keep you in hospital. I said, sorry, for how long? And he was like, for your pregnancy. So at this stage, Síle, I was probably maybe like 17, 18 weeks pregnant. And the longest you can go at that time for monoamniotic twins was 32 weeks. And then you'd be sectioned. So I thought, you're keeping me in here now for like 18 weeks. So I had to do it.
Yeah.
You know, you listen to these people, you're putting faith in these people. Yeah. And yeah, so my new home was the rotunda.
Yeah. And was there any other way? Would there be a different way now? That was 11 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Would there have been any other way for dual care?
Yeah. I think it was because of my history.
Yes.
And because the fibroid was quite significant, and where it was at the neck of my womb. So they needed to keep an eye on that. So they just thought, obviously, my risk had just increased significantly and they just didn't want to take the chance.
That was the safest way for you and for the babies.
Yeah. So I got traces every 4 hours. I got an ultrasound in the morning, an ultrasound every evening. You know, the twin one might be lying under twin two because there was no divide.
Of course, yeah.
So many times I'd be rushed down for an emergency ultrasound to see, you know.
Yeah, so there was no other way.
No.
That was you needed to be there on site and you needed to be checked as often as that. And they gave you great care.
Oh, like absolute heroes.
Yeah.
From the midwives, from the porters going in, from every midwife. You know, I remember watching the programme of the Rotunda.
Yes,
Remember they did the documentary and seeing the midwives, and they were just amazing because they knew my life had done a 360.
Yeah.
I was living the other side of that coin now.
Yeah.
From being someone who was always so active, loved travelling, making my own food choices, working with women, working with clients, you know, and now I was just living the total opposite.
Yeah. Absolutely. So the advocacy that you pride yourself within your gym on helping other people to thrive within,
Yeah.
you became then the person that needed these other people so much just to survive, not even to thrive.
No.
They became your family for that period of time.
Yeah.
And they delivered. They were in real time. They were as much to you as you could have desired them to be.
Like they went, I was in my own room, you know, thankfully, because it was such a long period of time. But even on their tea breaks, they'd come in, we'd play cards, you know, and they just knew that my shoulders were up at my ears and they'd say, now just breathe, Aoife.
Yeah.
You know, and there was so much going on behind the scenes with my business partner at the time. And they were like, you know, Aoife, we need to keep your blood pressure.
Yeah.
You know, so you need to forget about what's happening there and you need to. So my whole purpose was Chloe and Ava.
Yeah.
From them within me, I needed to be strong for them.
Yeah.
And it was so hard. I was allowed out for an hour a day. And the saving grace was my best friend at the time. We were both given the same due date.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So her appointments were in the rotunda and it was the warmest summer ever. And I was allowed out to the garden to meet her when she'd come up for her appointments. So I'd go out and I'd meet her. And that was some little bit of
connection.
normality.
Yes, of course, connection. We're pack animals. We need to connect with the wider world. Now, you had those lovely people within the system being lovely to you and relating to you as the human being that you are and meeting a lot of those emotional needs within that. But it was still indoors and your basic emotional need for autonomy and control couldn't be met within there, really. You were very much...
You just needed to feel as if there was a little bit of normality because, you know, I wasn't going to any prenatal classes or groups or, you know, and it was just, you were in the four walls and, you know, I left the rotunda a qualified midwife. Like, you know, they'd come in and I'd know where they were going to be putting the traces on me and, you know, it was just, it became your day.
Yeah, it became the vernacular of your world for that period of time. And you put so much faith in them. Yeah. But your energy, again, will have worked with their energy. And I can only imagine that some of the reason, a percentage of the reason they were so lovely to you is because you were so lovely yourself. What you were giving, you were getting a vibrational match for that straight back. So these gorgeous wee girls came into the world then. Yes. What was that, August?
No, they were July.
Oh, they were July.
Yeah, they were due on the 14th of September, but they came on the 29th of July. Yeah, so, and they were like 4'7" and 4'11". So they had to spend time in NICU.
Yes.
And again, just the staff in that ward, you know, because you're dealing with alarms and the babies, like they were just so tiny, you know, and you were so vulnerable. Like I spent time, I had to stay there because I was sectioned myself and I was breastfeeding at the beginning. And so I spent like, I think it was like 2.5 weeks there. And then I came home and you come home with no babies, you know, and then my husband went back to work and I was still expressing. And I remember I got the bus one day and I was only thinking about this driving over here. I remember I got the bus one day. So I was freezing my milk. And I had fresh milk and I remember I was putting it all in my lunch bag and putting the ice packs in and, you know, and I was getting the bus up. And I was just coming on to O'Connell Street and I remember looking down on the floor and seeing milk. It had spilt out of the bag. Oh. And I remember getting off the bus and I sobbed.
Oh, yeah.
I sobbed the whole way. I remember walking through the doors of the rotunda. And again, the lovely porterman, just so lovely. Hello, love, are you here to see your angels? And I think he looked at me going, okay, are you okay? And the bag was soaked, walking up. Yeah. But the minute you walked in, the midwives were just, they
absorbed your pain for you.
They were incredible.
Yeah, yeah. Again, it's like everything else, from the smallest thing to the biggest. We have to look at these things as happening for us, not to us, in order to reframe it and stay sane and safe and be sustainably able for what's coming next, because there's always something coming next. Yeah. And that's not a fatalistic way of looking at life. It's actually a very resilient way of looking at life. So While you were in that space, how long were the girls in after you?
So they were a good 4 weeks. Yeah. And at one point they thought Chloe now, it was twin one and twin two, and Ava was twin one. She was a little bit smaller. They thought that Chloe was going to come home without Ava. And Ava, it was all about weight and ounces and how much they were drinking. And, they were off the CPAP. Their lungs were doing well now at this stage. And I remember thinking, oh, we can't bring one home and leave another there. And no, but they both got home together.
Amazing.
And yeah.
I'd say that was some day of celebration.
Oh, I remember my mum and dad had the whole sitting room, balloons and a banner across the fireplace, welcome home Chloe and Ava. And yeah, it was amazing. It really was. It was, but I still had my shoulders up at my ears. It was still, was,
Of course, because then you were home with two babies.
Yeah.
And then you had the trauma of that to process emotionally in your own time. You probably would have had to shelve it for a period of time because you had to get involved in rearing these little babas, and it's going to be so busy.
Yeah.
You weren't feeding at that stage. Were you still expressing?
Yeah, still expressing.
So that's tiresome and tiring and sore and challenging. And you were post-operative to some extent as well because you had had a procedure. So really hard times.
And in the rotunda at the time, before I went in, I would have made my own food. I'm a massive believer on, what we give our body, what we nourish our body through our food is how we're going to feel, And when I was in the rotunda, it was cornflakes, jarred tinned fruit, white bread, marmalade, and that was the start of me becoming addicted to sugar. Yeah. Oh, completely. And, then when the girls were in NICU, I remember walking in because I wasn't feeding myself anymore. I would get a coffee. And then I remember walking up to the vending machine, getting a Galaxy bar. I'd be eating the Galaxy bar before I'd go in. I'd hide the wrapper. That was me. And that is what I'm saying is that my life had... Don't get me wrong, before I would have had a bar of chocolate and shared a scone or whatever. I wasn't strict, but this now was survival, Sheila.
I get it.
And it was
And, eating as well, eating some of those feelings that you couldn't soothe in the world around you. We do that. Addiction is the pursuit of any pleasure to the point where it is deleterious for you. There's an ill effect, but you continue anyway because whether overtly or covertly, it's meeting a need.
Yeah.
And it is the solution, not the problem at the time. So the solution at that time would have been just have the Galaxy, have the coffee. It was a quick fix to settle the nerves in your tummy, perhaps.
And when I didn't feel I was in control.
Yes, of course.
That was a big thing for me.
You could then have what you wanted.
Yeah.
Yes, of course. Yeah. We all fall foul of that at different stages in our lives and to different extents until we do the work.
Yeah.
So enter perfect segue then to until we do the work. So as the girl who had the gym and was previously very fit and fit oriented for aesthetics, you said when we chatted before, your perspective on fitness, emotional fitness, mental fitness, spiritual fitness changed then organically over a period of time.
Yeah. I realised that it doesn't matter how fast I could run or how quickly I could do a WOD or how heavy I could deadlift. That was nothing. I just wasn't feeling well. And that's now where wellness and well-being is so important to me. So important. Everything else I'll do, but it's not my main aim or my main goal. Is that I want to feel well and I want to feel calm, and that's internally.
Yes.
It's not about the six-pack anymore. It's not about the broad shoulders or anything like that. And that all came with me through challenges, but also through learning from my challenges, and the chapters that are part of my story, that have now made me Aoife today.
Of course.
And it's definitely I would never change anything that's happened to me, because I definitely think my business angle now, when I look at a woman who comes into me, whether she's a new mom or she's a woman that just wants to get her mojo back and to feel like her again, I've worn that t-shirt and I can relate to everything she's saying to me. And that's from experience.
Of course.
And how I realised that if you now need to become your number one client was my sister-in-law used to always come down and help me. Alan was gone back to work and I had great support. Like, both sets of parents were amazing and I was very lucky that way. My sister used to come and, you know, she'd be like, now you go and have a shower, and she'd take them or whatever, and she'd go uptown and bring them, you know. But I remember one day she wasn't able to come and they were in a little basket on the ground, you know, like a Moses basket or something like that. And I remember looking at them going, okay, girls, mommy needs to show up for her now, big time.
Yeah.
Because I was existing and I didn't feel like Aoife. And I said, I have to get my mojo back. And I said to myself, okay, I don't need to add a to-do list here. I had enough of a to-do list. I needed to make promises for myself. And I wrote down on a piece of paper 3 promises. And it was to be out of my pajamas before 11 o'clock, to make a salad every single day, and to get out into nature. And they were my 3 promises. And I did those 3 things every day. And then I'd add in another little thing, you know. Maybe it was, you know, prepare my breakfast the night before or whatever it is. But I associated being out of my pajamas by 11 o'clock, have your breakfast before then, you know. And by me doing this, as I said, it wasn't a to-do list. It was promises for me.
Yeah.
Because I knew, Síle, I needed to fill my cup to be able to give anything to these small babies that needed a strong mammy. You know, and like I said, I had so much support around me, you know, but I needed to show up for me.
So the filling of your cup in order to be able to give to the girls was just so important. And when we hear it all the time, put on your own oxygen mask before you think you can help anybody else. And we know the bumper stickers, but I know that moment you're talking about when you look down at your little pets and you realise when the chips are down here, everybody's great.
Yeah.
They're showing up for me, but really these are my babies.
Yeah.
And I have to get them from this bassinet to the world. And to do that, the long haul requires me to begin looking after me. So it's not on the to-do list, it's really on the not to-do list.
Yeah.
What I'm not going to do. I'm not going to give in to a lethargy and a protracted inertia. I am going to rise above that. I'm going to reach into the best of myself. And as you do, of course, the babies thrive because they can pick up on your energy.
Yeah.
They're learning so much in those formative years from you. They're learning their attachment style from you. So you did an amazing thing to have that little breakdown moment and allow it to be your breakthrough.
Yeah.
So have you followed from that then into your business?
Yeah. And that's what I love. I love my job because I love, you know, I don't love to see someone vulnerable or in that position, you know, but I love to be able to guide them and the tools that I've learned, you know. And look, it is hard work, but I believe it's harder to stay living a life where you just don't feel like you. And you have to live in your mind. So I always just say that the work that you're going to put in now is going to give you those little butterflies again in your belly and a pep in your step and a belief and hope, you know, and that you're going to get the courage to do this. And that's why I just love my job.
So you're getting so much meaning and purpose from it. And exactly what you say, you can allow somebody to borrow your belief in them until their own belief in them kicks in again.
Yeah.
And it is the dearth of that leaves people feeling so empty and sad at a given time. And they can't understand themselves, because of course you can't see what's on the label when you're in the jar, so they don't understand in the moment why things have tanked so much.
Yeah.
And then when they can hear somebody chatting with them, giving them the sense that I see you, I hear you, I value you, you matter. Mattering is huge.
Yeah.
When you matter to somebody, it changes everything.
Yeah. And to give them the tools, you know, I think when you're in that area that just feels so grey, and to give someone one little step, okay, just pick one thing that you're going to do today. And if you can just plan it, now we need to act on it. Because when we just plan it, it stays as a wish.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I wish I didn't feel like this. I wish I could do that. So when we act on it, then we get the tick. And when you get that tick at the end of the day, regardless of everything else that's gone around you, the baskets can be full of ironing or whatever, but if you get that tick, that just builds momentum to get another tick. And they're the small wins that we celebrate, you know, and the small wins just make us stay on the road that we want to stay on. You're gonna divert off, and that's okay, you know, but when you learn these tools of how to bring yourself back in, how quickly can I react to bring myself back into this? And that's, you know, that's what I believe wellness and well-being and is all about.
It's the sustainability of it, isn't it? That, you know, it's not the practice du jour. It is the endurance, really, of what can you do that you'd be willing to do differently on a different day if that wasn't meeting your need anymore. Because sometimes, I know I have a client myself at the moment who was doing, I actually forget which of the new practices of the moment she was involved in, but she needed to go down on her knees within it. Which one would that be? It's one of these keep fit programs anyway. I just forget, but she has to carry weights and go up and down on her knee. Which is that one?
So lunges?
It's lunges within the program, though. It's within a circuit.
Oh, she's doing Trica?
It could be Trica,
yes. Or High Rocks, something like that.
I think she's doing a myriad. So, but I think it is the Trica where, so she's injured and she's very upset. And she was nearly going to throw her whole fitness routine. I know. We began to work on it, and in hypnosis she began to visualise that she can do it a different way. That's not a way that she can do at the moment because her knees just aren't able for it. And that's data for your body as well. It mightn't be the programme that works for you. She might have been great at it for a period of time, but now it's not the one that serves her. So, but for a moment, believe it or not, she couldn't see into the wings and see she could still do it differently. Just walk with a weighted vest on. That's amazing. Walk up a hill with a weighted vest. And you're doing your Trica.
How you can adapt, how you can just change it. But you're the goal, you're still working on it. But it's that we're able to just, you know, go off and come back on that path again.
Sure, the flexibility is key. So I'm sure in your own life, as you serve these gorgeous people and serve them so well, you're gaining so much from it yourself. Of course, you're back into a great fitness routine yourself now because you deliver your classes. But there have been other griefs in your life that have put you back to the drawing board as such, to really dig deep into your why so that your how gets easier on the next chapter and what it's serving up to you in terms of lessons, in terms of resilience, and I suppose in terms then of your offering into the world. So you've taken a lot of learnings, as we've discussed so far, from your own experience, from your business, and you feed that back as best you can into the world to grow you and grow your community. Most recently, you lost your dad. And that was right back to the drawing board of working on your resilience. I suddenly lost my dad. It'll be 3 years on the 5th of October. Very suddenly. Unfortunately, he fell in his home. And my world literally, within one phone call, fell apart. My dad was a massive part of my life, but also part of the family dynamic. He was a great man. He was a great uncle. He was in a family of 10. Great brother. His brothers and sisters are like my aunts and uncles. I'm so close to every single one of them. You know, they're like all my mums and dads. Like, they're amazing. And with all his nephews and his nieces, he was a huge part of them.
So yeah, I'll never forget that phone call Wednesday morning at 10 to 10. I'd parked up to go to the bank and my aunt rang and said, your dad is gone. And I said, he's gone where? And I knew by her then. And yeah, he was an eggman, still working up until 82 years of age. Yeah, he was never stopped. He was just his work ethic and, you know, his love for talking and, you know, sitting with someone. He used to visit, you know, farms all over Cavan, Monaghan, Longford, Leitrim. He'd be everywhere with the eggs, and he'd go in and he'd sit with them. And he'd love to meet the wives of the farmers. Or, you're the one keeping this farm going. You're the one making the dinners. And he just loved talk and conversation. He was a real people's person. But obviously, he also had a side that he was very private. He loved his own little life, you know. So yeah, that was the worst news any daughter could ever get. Yeah. It was very obviously no warning, and you know, you never get to say goodbye. I think that's the hardest.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So sorry to hear that. And for your family then, that was hard enough, and you were navigating your way through that, when in fact then there was a coroner's report, and the reporting of the incident just took you to a different place.
Yeah.
When you felt that you should have been grieving, and grieving alone was quite enough to do.
Yeah.
There was a different level to it.
Yeah. So that was October that Daddy died, and there was a coroner's inquest. So a hearing, because there was no cause of, you know, we have to find out the cause of death. And at the moment in Ireland, anyone can go into a coroner's court to a hearing. It's open to the public. And I didn't go. My dad's brother and sister went, and so that was fine. And they said, in time, Aoife, you can read, you know, if you want to read the report. So my brother, he has the report. He lives in Australia, and he said, you might never want to read it, Aoife. That's okay. You know, and I was at peace with that. I was dealing with losing him, number one, regardless of how it happened. This man was no longer in my life, you know. So it was, I'll never forget it. It was the week of, so Father's Day was going to be that Sunday. And I remember I was going to get my tyre changed in my car. And it's a family, they're our family that own the tyre centre in Navan. And I remember going up, and James, he's my second cousin, really good guy. And he said, how are you doing, Aoife? I said, I'm just having a really shit day today. And he said, oh, I wouldn't blame you after what they said. And I said, who said? And he knew by my reaction that I didn't know about what was in the paper. And he says, oh, I'm so sorry. And all I can remember was running to the car and ringing my mum and screaming, crying down the phone, Mum, what was said about Dad? What is this? And she says, oh, how did you find out, love? And I was there. I'm just here and with James, and she just said, oh, love, come home. And I didn't. I got into the car and I drove to Daddy's grave and sat there. And meanwhile, my phone is hopping. All my cousins are ringing. Where are you? You know. And one of my cousins, Nuala, she's like a sister to me. She found me at Daddy's grave, and she told me what had happened. Didn't tell me what detail, but she said that your dad's inquest was published in the paper. So it sent, you know, my whole family, when I did get the energy to go to my aunt's house, and she was devastated. You know, they were all devastated. In the paper was, they had taken a picture from RIP and put it into the paper and had put all the details, everything, word for word, into the paper. So it sent us to a whole different level of grief, Síle. Pain that no family should ever have to experience. And that's why to this day I'm so determined to make changes within coroner's reporting, within the journalism of coroner's reporting. So I'm 2 years now on this campaign, and it's going really well. My story's been heard. I've been in the Shannon. I've been, in Trinity College with the Press Council of Ireland. Susan McKay she's the press ombudsman. She's been incredible. She says that my voice now is being heard. I've recently just met part of the sorry, my train of thought.
The other people that you've met in relation to your
protest.
Take your time. You're fine. Take your time.
The Justice Department. So I've just recently met them, and changes are going to be made. Where I'm coming from is to change within the code of practice. So what is of public interest? If someone falls down a manhole, yes, that's of public interest. Why was that manhole not covered? But not to the extent of my dad,
Or he fell in his own home.
He fell in his own home. They published the pajamas he was wearing, his whole medical history. That was not his cause of death. We had to read that my dad had prostate cancer. He never told any of us. And his GP told me that Aoife, he chose not to tell you because he was managing it. His medication was working and he was fine, But everything went into that article, yeah. And I will never be able to change what was written, what was seen by my family. But my hope is that no other family will ever go through the extra pain that we've gone through. The amount of families that have reached out with me. I put up on Father's Day, so June 2024, I put up a petition to ask for signatures to change this. And within 2 days, I had, I'd say, the guts of nearly 25 families who had reached out to me that the same thing had happened to them. Unnecessary information published.
And it takes somebody like you then to feel it at a time sufficiently. Very sadly that you felt it so deeply because it was your story, but to feel it and carry it then as your lived experience. But not unlike an interview that I did recently here with Rob Cullen and Dr. Jodie Moore, sociologist from UCC. They're talking about the difference between lived experience dialogue versus lived experience talk. And it's a really relevant interview. It'll actually be dropping this week. Maybe keep an eye out for it. And maybe allow it to inform your programme of work, whereby it's all very well to take somebody's story and to allow them to share their story. And as depleted as that might leave them. But are you going to do anything with that information? And are you going to look after that person then afterwards when they help you to inform a better policy?
Yeah.
So mind yourself in that one. Absorb for you when you're in certain spaces the energy that gets siphoned into the space from you that you need to then replenish in some other way. And don't be shy about looking for that from the system as well. Because if the system allows you to share your story in this very exhausting and very magnanimous way, there'll be something there that you need too. And make sure that you leave space for that, for lovely you. And maybe do have a listen to this interview. Two amazing people. Honestly, my own life has changed having done that interview with them. They're fabulous people. I'm sure that you could maybe follow both of them on Instagram as well and see what their stories can help you with. I think they're quite great. They dovetail, the stories dovetail quite nicely. Well, I honour you and I honour the work that you're doing. It takes these things to change society, one small piece at a time, one small bite of the elephant at a time, because you can't make the change overnight. And unfortunately, you don't have the autonomy within the system to make any of the changes. You can just keep following. So what's next for you?
Yeah, we're just waiting now for that was the bill of heads, so it's that has to change. So they're looking at changing, how a grieving family are the respect and what is of public interest, and to think of the grieving family when you're publishing and how much information is needed. Mm-hmm. That's where I'm coming from.
So the coroner's court, and help me to understand, because I'm not okay with this. So the coroner's court is there to establish the cause of death.
Yeah.
They may make findings, but they wouldn't be binding. Am I right in saying that even in the case of, we'll say, something that is of public interest, as you suggest, findings may be drawn from the inquest, but even those findings aren't binding. So is it necessary within the justice system to have a total rehaul of the whole process?
Yeah. Oh, no, there is. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's what I got from that interview, when I went up there, is that changes need to be made. But because these changes are in Ireland for so long now, these things do take time, but it's from the coroner, what is his responsibility, right down to the guards that are there on the day to inform families. Like my aunt and uncle didn't know that there was journalists there on the day, So it's about getting a little bit tighter on it and seeing what needs to be changed and looking through the eyes of whatever family is there. They don't want to be there, and it's taking in what they need.
Yeah, there's an element of posthumous GDPR requirement here as well.
GDPR dies when you die.
Yes, of course. Yeah. But posthumously, we now need to make sure that it doesn't.
Yeah.
And we need to negotiate with families to make sure that the boundaries are in place.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just waiting now. But everything, there was so many unanswered emails and, phone calls not returned. And I reached out to so many people. And I do understand that it is a very complex story. And, but I think it's until you hear it and how everyone can relate to it, that everyone is going to have a loved one that's going to pass. But then when they hear that it has been so common and the effects that it has on a family, that my hope is that no other family would ever have to experience it.
That's the legacy piece for you in memory of your lovely dad, that you're going to follow through on this, that his life, in fact, not even just his passing in that way, will be to a greater extent immortalised when you get this over the line, which you will. I am in no doubt about the fact that you will. I know you will.
Yeah, like it's so funny. I'd be sitting there thinking about, the day it happens and when it happens and me thanking the people. Yes. Like that's the extent I'm going with it, because this whole campaign has been driven on one thing, and that's love for my dad. And that love will never go.
Yes.
And that's what is just going to get me over the line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's your fuel.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah, which is a beautiful connection, of course, with your program as well, the MyFuel that you offer other people in their wellness. Yeah. This is your fuel on this occasion in your wellness.
Yeah.
In this, the cog within the wheel of your wellness is this. At the moment, there's so many other cogs within the wheel of anybody's wellness. As we move forward through life, we are required to show up for all of the different aspects of our life. Yeah. And the fuel that you need for that particular project is love. And that, as you say, it's limitless. Yeah. It's not going anywhere.
No.
And I'm sure he's spiritually with you all the time, guiding you and minding you.
Yeah. I'd say at the beginning he was, when I felt that things weren't really happening, I'd say he was like, Aoife, just leave it now, but I couldn't.
Yeah. You had the bit between your teeth at that stage. Yes.
I was like a little terrier, and I was just not letting go of the bottom of those trousers. I was just, that's it now. Yeah. And like everything in life, Síle, if you feel you've got hope, you don't stop. You don't stop. You keep going.
Yeah, I agree. And I love what you're doing with this. It's going to be giving you so much meaning and purpose at a time in your life when it's putting a stitch in your tattered heart. You miss your dad and you can't have your dad back. But if you can do this for him, or rather when you do this for him, and you help so many other families, it is very much taking you back onto that trajectory of wellness that you were on. That this, you spoke earlier about the fact that you get your clients on an upward trajectory, and whilst they might slip off the path that you've decided with them, for them, that's best for them, life happens. But you always want them to come back. You want them to have the emotional tools sharpened in that emotional tool belt of theirs, so that they can live independently of you eventually, and of your program or of your guidance, and just be well within themselves. And equally, having experienced what you experienced earlier in life, and then the arrival of your little girls, and realising then you had to pour into your own wellness cup. This was you falling off, to all intents and purposes, that trajectory, because it was just such an arresting moment in your life. But you're meandering back onto it by doing this. You need the occupational therapy of this as well, I think, for you. And it's so much for the higher good. It's going to serve so many people so well. I'm sure your family are so proud of you.
Yeah, no, they are. Yeah, they're proud that I didn't give up. You know, and they're just looking forward to seeing and knowing that these changes will be in place for protection, you know. And I've always been, no matter what project or event, I do an awful lot of charity work and events. And when I put my mind to something, I want it to happen. I want it to work. And, you know, and an awful lot of my, you know, dealing with grief over the years, you know, or is doing something and the outcome is just so rewarding. You know, like people say, where do you get the time and the energy to do all this? I just love the outcome.
Yeah.
I love doing community things and just seeing the community coming together, like memorial walks, or, you know, we had a kindness evening. There was an event in one of the schools, this poor kid, you know, and I just said, let's just bring everyone together and let's just be kind. And we danced and there was colours and it was just beautiful, you know. And it's what you get from it. It's like a, you know, boomerang. You put it out there and it just comes back tenfold. And I love it. You
Raising
know,
the collective consciousness. It's the most healing thing we can do.
Yeah, and that's it. It's healing. It's filling the side of your heart that's just, you know, feels shattered.
Yeah.
But it just softens the edges of it.
Yeah. It does, of course. That silent howl that we have when we lose somebody can be deafening.
Yeah.
And it's within self. So that's solar when we don't thrive as individuals. It's not an individualist intention. Our existence here is not individualist by design. And it is that connectivity, that sense of community, that collegiality that raises the collective consciousness, and it gives people hope.
Yeah.
When they know that they're seen, heard and valued, that's all it takes.
Yeah.
Well, I honour your work. And then you're very like your dad. Obviously, I didn't have the pleasure of knowing your lovely dad, but I'm that people's person aspect of him that you talk about. You're clearly that as well. So I think in the higher powers, it was obviously designed that you would be his daughter to carry on this, to take the baton off him and carry on this part of the work. But equally in your community, in your gym, you have a practice of gratitude. You have a practice of, you believe in the coming back, isn't it? The return. When things knock you sideways, you believe in helping people to find their own return.
Yeah.
Will you tell us a little bit about that, about your daily practice?
Yeah, like I would have thought, you know, back in the day of, you know, focusing on my deadlifts or, you know, things like that, you know, mindfulness was fluffy things and, you know, airy fairy and, you know, and now I'm the complete opposite. And why I would have started to practice my gratitude would have been that it could be Monday, but my mind could be in Thursday. And I'd be thinking, okay, I have to do that then. And I wasn't in a conversation with you. I'd be thinking of something else. And my mind was racing, you know? And for me, one of my biggest whys to all of this is that I want to have a calm mind. I don't want to be the reactive mammy. Like, don't get me wrong. I'll be like, oh, girls, pick up your shoes or whatever. But you don't want to be 80, 90% of your day that reactive mom. And I was, and I just, by the simple thing of the box breathing, I get all my girls, we do it after our classes in the morning. I get them to place their hand on their heart, just take a deep breath in for 3, hold the breath for 4, and exhale out for 5. And I can see them. Literally, they melt into the mat. Yeah. And I'll get messages after class, oh God, I so needed that. I might do a reflection with them, read them a little poem, whatever it is. But again, it's just bringing us back to the moment we are in. And I say to them, you can do this in the car, waiting for the kids to come down from school. You can do this standing at the sink, about to fill the sink with water. We do not need to be in any yoga pose with candles lit and it just helps me so much that I feel that I'm way more present.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, the art of showing up for yourself is underestimated, really.
Yeah.
And knowing, as you say, how to put in the hard yards when more or less like fixing the roof when the sun is shining. So when you're filling the sink, that is the time to practice your longer, slower exhale and teach your body how to engage the parasympathetic nervous system so that then in the moments that matter, it happens innocuously, because that's the time when you won't remember that ancestral pathway.
Yeah.
It'll be dismembered by the chaos of the moment.
Yeah, no.
But if you practice bringing calm to that chaos often enough, when things are okay, you can then walk your talk when you need to.
And it's not, as I say, the fight or flight, it's that reaction then where you go and you want to get the biscuit, and then it's not 1 biscuit, it's 4 biscuits, and I'm just going to not eat that dinner now, and then it's make a sandwich. And while the more we can just allow ourselves to, be in that calmer state, then we find that we're not in that situation where we've reacted, because then when we react, the next emotion is anger. Why did I do that? Then it's guilt. Oh, sure, I've ruined the day now. And, and that's why I just try and allow the girls to just teach them to just bring it back to. And I've had some girls message me saying, I did what you said. I left and I just stood out in the back garden. One of the kids could have had a meltdown or whatever, and they just remove yourself from the situation. Your child is safe. Okay, they could be still having the meltdown, but they're safe.
Yeah.
If you can just remove yourself from the furnace, give yourself that little bit of calm, then you go back in with a different mindset.
And bring your calm to their chaos. Because when you meet their chaos with your chaos, it's a perfect storm.
Yeah.
And it's never going to make the boat go faster.
No.
So it's lovely that you're giving those skills and practices. And clearly they're coming from your own lived experience as much as they are coming from a business model that is growing so beautifully for you. So you win your morning to win your day. You have nice early starts because you teach your classes. And you have a little reflection that you were going to share with us.
Yeah. So I have this in my bedroom and I read it probably every second day. And I love it. And I think it's so important that, especially, we're not the same person we were 20, 30 years ago. And that's really okay. But your core beliefs, who you are in your heart, is still the same. And I think a lot of women who I've met over the years try to go back to what they were before they became a mammy or before they became a wife. And is it aesthetically? Is it to get back into a dress that they wore when they were 30 and now they're 45? They need to just bring it back to here. And then I always reflect back on the shoulders down, because I just know for so many years I lived like this, you know. And I think that if you're sitting listening to this podcast today and you don't feel like yourself for whatever reason, but if you can just bring it back into your core belief in your heart. So you are amazing as you are. Stronger than you know, more beautiful than you think, worthier than you believe, more loved than you can ever imagine, passionate about making a difference, fiery when protecting those you love, learning, growing, not alone, warm, giving, generous, quirky, sexy, funny, smart, flawed, whole, scared, brave, and so much more. Be strong, be confident, but most importantly, be you.
That's gorgeous. That is lovely. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
You do you is, we live in an age of you do you. We didn't years ago.
Yeah.
And I think some women, I'm mentioning women and men, people,
Yeah.
have still, that message has eluded them. Even though we've come to this time together, everything, we're post-digital disruption now.
Yeah.
And messages are out there in ways they never were before. You know, you had to buy a book to have a little message du jour years ago. Now you can get them, lovely reflections everywhere. But I think some people still, as you say, miss it on the inside.
Yeah.
They're reading it, but they're not feeling it in the fascia of them.
Yeah.
And I think chronic ailment comes from that.
Yeah.
You know, people are, with due respect, reaching perhaps for, you know, pharmacological or medical responses to things because they think the quick fix is available.
Yeah.
But really, chronic ailment is, as you say, coming from capped or limited belief in self.
Yeah.
And when we can break through the glass ceiling of that paradigm that we're living from, everything is possible.
Yeah.
We are in a whole new realm of potentiality.
Yeah.
And I wonder, as I'm listening to you reading that, I wonder would it be good to advise people maybe to write their own reflection? Did you write that for yourself, or is that from somebody else?
No, that was given to me a long time ago.
It's so bespoke to you.
Yeah, it was given to me a long time ago. And she printed it out and put it into this frame for me. It was a client of mine. And anytime I'm doing talks, or I just love to read it.
Yeah.
And I love to watch people's reaction, and you'll see some girls wiping away a tear, and you know, and I do believe that there is so many. Why I'm saying women, and as you say, yes, men too.
Sure,
you know, absolutely. It's 80% of my client base is women. I do have men, you know, but 80% is women, and you know, I do believe that they might feel they've lost themselves. And I think the wellness and the fitness industry at the moment sometimes just feels really noisy and confusing. I'm in this fitness, I'm 47 this year. I'm in it, you know, nearly 27 years. Some days I'm confused. I'm like, you know, so many, you know, what am I eating, you know, within the day, and I'm doing this, and my morning routines and my evening routines, and it just becomes so busy.
So curated.
Yeah. And people are like, what way should I eat? And I always say, do you think our ancestors were sitting around a campfire after working the farm all day? Do you think they're talking about macros and steps and calorie counting? And no, they weren't. You know, it just bring it back to the basics. From farm to fork. That's my big belief with food.
Yeah.
The less packaging, the more whole food that food is. The colour on your plate. Yeah. You know, you're on the right track.
First principles, feeding the belly bugs.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because they're hosting us, not the other way around.
Yeah.
We have skin microbiome, we have oral microbiome. Obviously, we've got our gut microbiome. And as we feed the polyphenols and give the prebiotics, not even the probiotics, because sometimes we take a probiotic, whether synthetic or otherwise, and we think we're doing great, but maybe we're adding a new bug to the bacteria to the microbial community and maybe they can't cope.
Maybe
they're quite tight in their own wee community.
Yeah.
But the prebiotics, so get the green, getting the green in and the colour on the plate, not just green, but, you know, as many fruits and veg as we possibly can, keeping it simple, keeping it simple.
Yeah. And just lower the bar. You know, that would have been a big thing for me. You know, I would have just kept raising that bar of expectations on myself, you know, and I think if we lower it.
Yeah. Because the stress, I don't know what you'll feel about this, you're the expert, but it's a stress on your body. I know when I was rearing my children, I tried really hard, and I'm using that phrase quite selectively. I tried really hard to go to gym classes. And pre-COVID, I was trying really hard to attend a particular class maybe 3 or 4 times a week. And then during COVID, one of the lovely girls that taught in the gym ended up taking people in. She had a huge space, so we were able to maintain distance, but it was kind of like a converted shed kind of thing. It was fantastic. Great atmosphere in the place. And I attended diligently, loved it, loved the connected feeling, loved the music, I loved working off the pent-up energy during COVID as well. But it wasn't something that I could sustain. And when we all went back to work again, and I really lamented that, and I thought, gosh, now I'm going to fall into disrepair, and I'll be, you know, I'll get old overnight. I do a lot less now than I ever did in my life, and I'm happier and healthier in myself. And that's not to take from gym classes if that works. But I think to speak to your point about the flexibility. So at the moment, I wouldn't have time to attend a gym class. But I have a weighted vest and I go walking, literally on the roads around where I live. And I love it. I go with my friend, so I'm blessed with great crack. We can be heard laughing.
I could imagine.
Oh, the crack is 90. I couldn't begin to tell you what goes on.
And that's so important.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And that is quite enough for me now at this stage of my life. Now, that's not to say if I had time on my hands that I wouldn't go to a class or go to yoga. You know, I just do some stretching myself in my garden.
Yeah. Our bodies are designed to move, Síle. So whatever's going to work for you, you know, if your body is moving and you're getting everything you've said there's your results.
And then you see, you're strong enough to, you know, as you get older, you're kind of aging backways from the point of view that you're not stepping into that age range where you think, oh, I don't carry my own messages now. I call my sons to do it. Or, you know, I don't, carry my own case down the stairs, first world problems when I'm going somewhere, you know, I get so much. Not at all. Yeah. That's why you maintain this. They're kind of like lifestyle medicines in your weightlifting. You know, you carry your own things so that as you get up and down out of the chair intentionally without leaning on the arms and all the ordinary things, I think that keeps you really fit. And I think there's a certain time in your life when the lack of stress around doing your exercise is really beneficial.
Like, you know, I just say, if you're going to be booking a class, it's got to work at home. Why are you booking a class at 6 o'clock and your husband leaves the office at 10 to 6, you know, and he has to get home to the kids and you have to get into the car and drive to class? You know, you're not going to sustain that. Yeah. So you need to pick what's going to work for you and your family dynamic, you know, and then it just becomes part of your life.
So right. And then not to lament that you can't do everything then at different stages, because the time passes. I mean, the days are short, really, that the kids are so small. The years are go by so quickly when the children are so small. Over in the blinking of an eye, you have an empty house. And you can do what you like. So you don't want to fall out. No. You know, it's not like kidney dialysis. I mean, you can do a different class. You know, you don't absolutely have to be at that particular class. You can shake it up and do it a different way, as long as you get your exercise, though. Or get your break away. It won't always have to be an exercise class. I think it's the connection piece as well, the human connection. I think getting away with your girlfriends or out. I know we go out with lovely couples that we've been friends with forever. So we're together 40 years in September this year. 32 years married and 40 years together, but 32 years married. And we have a lovely group of friends that have been together that long as well in couples. And we still meet up for meals and chats, and it is just so energizing. There's not a pill or a potion in the world could match the crack, you know, and the naughtiness and the telling of stories. And I think all of that, the emotional fitness of that, I think feeds into the wellness in general piece that you're talking about.
Yeah. And I think, during COVID, we lost that connection, and I think there still needs work. I think people, find it maybe difficult to hold a conversation, to sit down with someone. Like, I just love talking. I just love being with people. I'm a real people's person. I can't walk from one end of the street in my hometown without meeting someone I know. And, I just love that.
Yeah.
And I think people say, oh, how are you? But they don't actually listen to their answer, and it's like, can we not just stop now and engage? You don't need to be there for, a half an hour with that person, but just, oh, how are you? I haven't seen you in ages. And it is so important.
Yeah. There's a confidence piece in there as well. You're right. The start-up sentences are important. And also the exit language with confidence is important as well, so that you won't avoid, because avoidance is a terrible thing and it can happen innocuously, that you won't avoid the quick conversation. So if I meet Aoife, I think, oh God, she's lovely. And I don't want to just rush past her. So I'll pretend I didn't see her. But what a waste of an opportunity. Whereas if you're confident in your exit language, you can genuinely stop, hold space, climb up into presence, be there, look at her. I mean, when two eyes catch each other, and we've a lovely gaze caught so many times in this interview, it's really special. I can feel the energy. Yeah. And when you catch that gaze with somebody, worries melt away because you're in connection, which is this is human in its very essence. And then knowing within a minute or two how to say, right, I'm going to push on because I have to get the shopping home by such and such a time, or I've got to collect the kids. So lovely to see you. People will feel that that's real. And it can be done. So exit language is a great one as well. I would teach exit language to kids in particular. I teach startup sentences, but I teach exit language because sometimes they're in friend groups that don't serve them. And as long as they know how to exit that friendship, even if it's language in their own mind that they don't express to anybody else, or language that they use in their homes when they're leaning into a space where people are supportive of them, to say, I don't think that friendship works for me. I think what I'm going to do is such and such so that I can exit the group with dignity. It's dignity for them and dignity for others. And it probably segues back then to that wider dignity piece in our community that you're working so hard on.
Yeah.
If we could talk all day. I've had the best time. I honour you. I honour the work that you're doing. Thank you so much for being here. You literally manifested this.
I did.
You literally did.
I did.
Yes.
And I remember leaving you the voice note and thinking, she is going to think this one is, I'm cracked. But I just said, I'm going to put it out there. And I couldn't believe when you reached out to me. And I'm just so happy to be here.
Well, right back at you. Likewise, I love when like minds find each other. I love when energies merge in this lovely, intentional way. And that's what has happened here. So thank you for reaching out. I'm so glad that we've had this moment. I wish you the very best. I'm going to be following your story and doing anything I can do to get in behind it as well. And
thank you.
Let the listenership on the Síle show do the same, because it's a really important public interest piece. And I'm so glad for your dad that you're doing that for him.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, gur míle maith.
Gur míle maith agat, Síle. Thank you so much. Yeah.
And there you have it. Well, as we've just heard, wellbeing as a practice, which is framed in terms of systems, structures, habits, and frameworks, the things we put in place to bring some sense of order to our lives. These practices carry an assumption. To presume the systems as a fait accompli would be dependent on a degree of stability, wouldn't you think? And life as we know it is rarely obliged to honour these assumptions. The terms get rewritten. The ground beneath us definitely does not remain still. I think we all have examples of that in our lives. Responsibilities evolve. Relationships change. Health fluctuates. Loss arrives, as we've discussed today, in so many shapes and forms. But equally, new possibilities emerge. And the person required by this season of anybody's life isn't always the same person who carried us through the last season of our lives. Perhaps what we're really navigating is the space between the systems that we build for ourselves and the reality that these systems are actually required to serve. Almost like a kind of ongoing gap analysis of sorts between intention and circumstance. Because capacity is definitely not fixed. It expands and contracts according to pressure, opportunity, responsibility, loss, change, and stage of life. And the work, of course, isn't to eliminate the gap. Rather, the work is to adapt intelligently within it. To pursue optimization, not through rigid control, but through adaptive response, is really where the real work happens. And listening to Aoife's story today brought that reality sharply into focus for me anyway, and I hope it did for you too. Her journey reminds us that well-being isn't a destination, nor is it a permanent state of balance. And as regular listeners to the Síle show, you'll know that I tend to favour the concept of harmony over balance. An orchestra isn't harmonious because every instrument plays the same note or plays for equal periods of time. It's harmonious because each instrument adjusts in service of the whole. And perhaps well-being asks something similar of us. Striking harmonious wellness won't be accessed in individualism either. I think we really spoke to that point today. It's helpful to remember that no one is a background character in their own life. The awareness that every person we encounter is living a life as complex, meaningful, and real to them as our own is to us helps us to grow relationally and socially. John Koenig, in his Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows, offers the word sonder for precisely this realisation and for recognition of the invisible guests in all of our lives. Every interaction contains unseen variables. Every conversation carries hidden context. People arrive into our lives carrying experiences, burdens, histories, hopes, and realities that rarely announce themselves on the surface. And when we remember that, certainty softens, assumptions lose their sharpness, listening becomes more human. And I'm wondering, after speaking to Aoife today, is there room for sonder and invisible guest theory, even in journalism? I'll leave that one with you. And so, dear listeners, your task for this week is simply to practice sonder. Notice the unseen complexity in the lives of the people around you. The stranger on the bus, the colleague that you thought you knew, the family member that you may have unconsciously reduced to a role. And remember this, we don't see the full system from the outside in our interactions with anybody. We only see a fragment of the operating reality. So maybe let that soften your certainty. Let it deepen your curiosity. Let it refine how you speak, how you listen, and most importantly, how you respond. People matter. And so it is.